Welcome back. Thank you for attending this day, and hopefully you'll be here 2 more days with us. The next panel is sponsored by EDF, and we spoke about it earlier in one panel, how important it is. From supply chain to value chain, lessons learned for nuclear's next wave. And please give the moderator, it's the head of the CEO's office at Hinkley Point C construction project EDF UK. And her name is Katie Williams. Give her a warm hand. She will moderate the next section. Welcome, Katie.
Good afternoon and welcome to our flagship session. I'm going to introduce our panelists for this session. So first up, would you please welcome Bernard Fontenard, Chair of EDF. And I would like to welcome to the stage Mr. Pierre Enjolras, Chief Executive Officer of Vinci. And then we will welcome to the stage Roberto Andinolfi, President of Ansaldo Nucleare. Next, we will welcome Joost Godry, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Mammoet. And finally, please welcome Stéphane Aubabier, Deputy Chief Executive Officer of A-System. Gentlemen, please take your seats. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our flagship panel session for this year's World Nuclear Exhibition. EDF is sponsoring this session and is the leading European nuclear energy company, already delivering new nuclear with a portfolio of major projects spanning the next decade, including Hinkley Point C, my own project, the EPR2 program here in France, starting with Penly and Ravelin, and of course, the Sizewell C project. EDF understands the challenges of building new nuclear and is focused on how we can drive a true value chain to support faster, more efficient builds ahead. In the next 45 minutes, you will hear from the leading voices in the nuclear sector on our strategic topic of transforming the supply chain to a true value chain with greater integration, standardization, modularization, and diversification to ensure we are consistently delivering the highest safety performance with the best quality performance, with exemplary focus on lead time and delivering cost control. Shortly, we will hear from Bernard Fontenard, Chair of EDF, but first, I will briefly introduce our panel members. We have Pierre Enjolras, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Vinci, who are a major civils construction company within the French nuclear supply chain.
Hello, everybody.
We have Roberto Andinolfi, President of Ansaldo Nucleare, a key player within the European nuclear supply chain.
Hello to everybody.
We have Joost Godry, Chief Executive Officer of Mammoet, a major lifting infrastructure organization in the EPR supply chain, also at Hinkley Point C.
Good afternoon, all.
And Stéphane Aubabier, the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of A-System, a major engineering organization working on 10 nuclear new build projects currently worldwide.
Hello, everybody. Hello, nuclear fans.
Thank you, panelists. So Bernard, you're opening the discussion as EDF's Chair and CEO, and in many ways, you are the host of this session. EDF is at the heart of several of the world's most complex nuclear programs, from Hinkley Point C to the French nuclear new build program. You've seen the challenges up close, and you've been leading EDF's transformation to make sure that we get it right first time. So let me start with this question. What have been the most powerful lessons learned from these major projects, and how are they shaping the way EDF is preparing for the new build wave ahead?
Thank you, Cathy, and nice to see you here. Usually I see you at the Hinkley Point C site. And thank you to the panelists, and good afternoon to everyone. Yes, we learn from all those projects you mentioned, quite often the hard way, to be honest. We learn also from the LTOs we do on our own fleets, because it's big work to extend the life of a reactor. And with Arabelle Solutions and Framatome, we do LTOs worldwide, several per year. And here again is a continuous learning and improvement process. So from that, what do we do? First, we focus on the organization. It should be extremely clear with a project owner, a project manager, and reduce the interface as much as we can. Then it's a question of design, plan, execution, and I'm quite challenging to make sure we freeze the requirements, we freeze the design so that our partner can really work properly. Then it's a question of coordination of thousands of industrial actors. And for me, on the construction side, to make it simple, you have the civil, so thank you for being there, the installation, the heavy lifting, and it's about having one team, one goal with empowerment dedicated to the work. Clearly, standardization is key. And I'm happy that we can progress on Sizewell C, which is a replication of Hinkley Point C. And we have standards for 6 plus potentially 8 new repairs in France, and also export based on standards. So repeat, improve, this is the big thing. You need people and skills. For EDF, we hire 10,000 per year new employees, 4,500 apprentices, 5,000 trainees. And in France, the supply chain hires 10,000 new colleagues every year. You have the qualification process. How can we do it properly and fast? Here we have a lot of room of improvement. And ultimately, now we talk a lot about AI. Still, AI can give us ways, tools to go faster. So we are also working with the introduction of AI on the sites. So ultimately, safety, quality, and lead time, be fast, because that's where things happen. And to be fast, start on time. And it's what we do already for the French program. We have started production of reactor pressure vessels, steam generator, pumps, and make sure, even if the project is long, that any second matters. The projects we have will require a complete new mindset, shifting from a traditional supply chain to a long-term value chain. Also know the solution. Every industry that has achieved true operational excellence, I take like aviation, rail, automotive, has done so through standardization. And nuclear must follow the same path, moving from one-off projects to series effect, from prototype to program. But we need to do this in industry. This is why I'm so happy to have with us today such industrial leaders as Vinci, Ansaldo, Nucleare, Assystem, and Mammoth, all of whom bring tremendous experience and insight and already know EDF and this project. So my objective for this station is to explore how we can do better together, how we can align our efforts, learn from each other, and transform what once used to be a linear supply chain into a truly integrated, resilient, high-performing value chain, one that benefits not only EDF, but the entire nuclear industry.
Thank you, Bernard, for those words. So, Mr. Agnoras, turning to Vinci, what are the main challenges of the construction of new nuclear projects, and how can coordination between players on the ground be improved?
Thank you. I believe that improving coordination requires the creation of a genuine industry cluster, like the Germans would do it, like the Koreans would do it, and according to the guidelines that Bernas has just described, that he also calls the performance pack. That's the backbone. And I mean not only a selection of companies, maybe 10, 15, or 20 of them, but also a selection of 10, 15, or 20 CEOs who are fully committed and fully committed to commit their best resources to the project from day one and for the long term. And at the same time, we need to develop a culture of partnership, like you very well explained, and a culture of project mode. And coming back with my background, similar to the one that has been developed on a quite successful major infrastructure project here in France. I mean the Grand Paris Express, I mean the infrastructure of the Paris Olympics, or even the restoration of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Some very successful projects we are proud to have contributed to. And to achieve this cluster, I believe 3 conditions must be met from a contractor's point of view. The first condition is what we call ECI. That means early contractors' involvement. That is the involvement of the value chain partner as early as possible into the project, even at design phase. I believe this is the best way to ensure a good definition of the project to be built, to ensure the proper finalization of the detailed design, to ensure that there are only minor modifications during a design phase. And this is essential to achieve standardization, to achieve this replicability. And this is also essential to avoid additional delays. And since time is the essence, additional delays will consequently mean additional cost. So first conditions, early contractors' involvement. The second condition for me is regarding the contract policy. It has to be, at the same time, responsible, agile, and fair, with a clear and rapid decision-making chain at project management, taking its full responsibilities close to the job site, with the sole objective is the performance of the project. And regarding the risk, these very big projects, they have a big risk and they are even greater at the early stage of a project. And this risk must be mitigated one way or another. And they obviously can be, especially in an early stage, with a cost plus V model, like they do in the UK, you know it well, but a model which can evolve over time, one project after another, and why not to a more fixed cost model when the risks are more understood and more under control. And the third point, from a contractor's point of view, the third conditions to be met is continuity. Our main input is to bring all our most valuable resources, especially human resources, into this project, into such big project, and as you said, from day one and for long term. When you think about it, the electromechanical part to equip an EPR, it means around more than 1,000 workers full-time over several years on such a project. For our VINCI Energy nuclear division, it means more than half of its full-time resources. And for the heavy civil, it's even more true. To build 2 EPRs, you need 5,000 workers and supervision full-time for several years at the job site. And when you look at VINCI Construction, which still makes more than 30 billion euro revenue and which one of the major players in the industry, it means just 100% of our whole workforce just in France. So this is huge. So to be capable to mobilize the appropriate workforce, we need continuity and visibility to recruit all the workforce, to train them, because this is long-term recruitment. And this continuity will also help us to put in place some innovations, including AI, and to make sure that over the course of the projects, maybe moving from a project to another one, to make sure that this innovation come into force and can be implemented down the line, taking advantage of the learning curve. So ECI, fair contractual policy, and strong continuity and visibility.
Thank you, Pierre. Some really great comments and points there from a contractor's perspective. So, Roberto, turning to yourself, in your view, what are the key levers to attract new players into the European nuclear industry and strengthen the diversity of our supply chain? And what changes are needed to move from today's fragmented market to a more stable, continuous and structured nuclear industry, building on some of those contractual points that Pierre has just given us?
Thank you. Let me start from a consideration that is not a very original one, but is an important one. Certainly, the huge revival that we are expecting in nuclear at this time here in Europe, and not only in Europe, but in the Western world, is based on triggers that are truly transnational. That was not the case in the past. So we have climate change, that is a worldwide issue, no doubt. This. We have security of supply, and we learned here in Europe that this is an issue that, again, is transnational and cannot be addressed by a single country in our continent. So nuclear is no longer a national issue, as it was. It is becoming a joint challenge, at least in Europe, if not in the Western world as such. Let's keep in mind that the concurrent programs that we can expect in different countries in Europe will also imply an internal competition to make the proper use of the limited resources that we have. And this is a temptation to go for national interest, but we have to keep in mind that if we serve only the national interest, we are not addressing the challenges that we are asked to address, that are transnational, really. So, having said this, I start with what Mr. Draghi was clearly stating in his report. Our competitors are outside of Europe, not inside of Europe. And this is the first point that we have to keep in mind. Now, what to do to attract new players, and also, I would say, to encourage the old players to invest in new processes and products as needed. Well, I believe that the answer is an easy one, in principle, a very difficult one in practice. That is to create a broad European common market, as we were used to call it once, shaped as a levelized playground, accessible for any company in Europe. This is the issue. And we already talked largely about standardization. Standardization is the best way for us to create this condition. We have to pursue it. But standardization in all nuclear activities, as was already said, not only in design, not only in licensing, but in construction, in erection, and so on. And this is the best that we can offer to solve the issues that we have in front of us, we had in front of us in the past, extra cost, time, as Bernard was anticipating, and so on. So standardization is the key. Of course, you cannot achieve standardization just by waving a magic wand, but we should start applying standardization every day, starting from those processes which represent a real burden for the industry. So very often I am listening to industries that want to enter the nuclear business and are scared from processes that are difficult to standardize, that are cumbersome to cope with, like, for example, just to make an example, quality control procedures so different from one country to the other country. That means every time you have to invest again if you are going for a new project elsewhere. In this respect, I believe that SMR could represent a quite different opportunity, because they are not affected by stratified ways of doing, first. This is simple to say, but again, this is true. But also because the SMR model is valid only if we go for standardization. So certainly this is a good playground to strive for standardization. That is my answer to your question.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up, so Ansaldo has maintained nuclear expertise for decades without a domestic market. What lessons and experience has this taught you about resilience within your nuclear market?
Very shortly, because I don't believe that I have to talk of Ansaldo today, we have to talk of nuclear today, but certainly let me share with you the two things that I believe were the most important for us. First, make a strategic choice to preserve a wide range of expertise instead of focusing on a core business, by the way, and then to use this expertise being flexible in establishing a partnership. This was the secret for us and for our. We were adapting to the specific project and to the available partners every time in the best way, considering the needs of every partner and of each project. Anyhow, our experience certainly confirms that a market fragmented by nations, by local regulations, by local content is a significant pre-project activity. This means slow investment decision processes. This means at the end inefficiencies at the beginning and even during the execution, and as a consequence extra cost. So again, standardization is.
Thank you. So Joost, if I could turn to you, how is Mammoet working to adapt its capacities to respond to the ramp-up of international projects?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much. We're definitely at the nuclear industry at an inflection point of big change. But I need to start off with a modest message. You know, we as a company, engineered heavy lift company, we roughly do between 3 to 5% of the value of any investment in a larger project. But as you know yourself, we do play a crucial role to be there. Availability is crucial, in time, have enough equipment, etc. So what we've done as a company, we started what we call the Project Elevate is selectivity. So we focused on a few sectors and we focused on a few service type deliveries. And we choose that definitely where we can be more in a cooperative mode. So for us, it's very important that we are involved quite early on in the process of building or in engineering, and that we can also be part of the logistical solution while constructing. And I think for us, that's where we add value to the client. We might not necessarily always be the cheapest heavy lift provider, but we are definitely going for that quality. And I think that makes us also so proud of our nuclear heritage that we have already for a long time, decommissioning, maintenance, but also new build nowadays, which is great, of course, to be able to work in. And we bring our experience a little bit from other industries. And if you talk about the nuclear industry, it's a close-knit community. It's, of course, very high demand. For us also, it's great to work over there because we can learn a lot and apply it to different sectors. But I can only recommend the nuclear industry also to learn from other sectors. And if you talk about standardization and modularization, we have been quite active in the oil and gas industry. And guess what? They have been doing this already for many, many, many years. And they're much more cost effective in that respect. And if we compare what they do over there, and if we look then back into the nuclear industry, I think there we can do together with you all much better. And I don't want to be we have a limited role, so also modesty is part of our job as well. But definitely, we see from a logistical side that we can do much better as an industry. And I think we have to, because we need to speed up and we need to make sure that we don't have those huge overruns in time and cost.
Thank you. Stefan, from a systems perspective, France is relaunching its new nuclear program. And what do we need to do to stay competitive and make our supply chain stronger and more efficient?
First of all, just to mention that what I will say is the return of experience we have from the collection of projects we are involved in. As you rightly say, a bit more than 10 projects in new build programs worldwide for the time being with different nuclear industry, not only the French one with EDF, and of course, collection of other projects in nuclear, in fuel cycle, in defense programs. The title of the session is how to go from the supply chain to the value chain. I mean, what does it mean going to the value chain? Going to the value chain, according to me, is to be able to participate to the success, to the achievement of the project beyond the fulfillment of our own contracts. Yes, we have to deliver a contract, we have specification, but then bringing value in the project is to help, in fact, the project to be successful at the end. It's easy to say, not so easy to do, of course, but in fact, according to me, we have two main drivers that I would like to enhance, both of them related to the necessity we have to match the timeline. In nuclear, as in any other intensive capex projects, the timeline, the schedule is the enemy. The first feature to overspend cost is to get overtime. I think everybody here agree on that. It's the main purpose we have is to be on time. To be on time, probably two main points to be addressed. The first one is to have a stabilized and easy to construct design before starting the construction. Some other nuclear industry, I'm sure we have, I saw some Korean people here in the room somewhere. We used to work with the Koreans in Baraka project in UAE. We used to work in the contact with Russian project with Rosatom in some other countries, such as in Turkey, for example. They do manage to start the construction with a stabilized design. It should be easy as well to reach for us. As an example, in France, and it's something we have lived together with Vinci, on the ITER project, we were discussing that before the session. I see the head of ITER building project in the room. We managed to be on time thanks to the involvement of everybody, including the construction company, in the design phase of the project. And when we started the project, the design was stabilized. Almost. Always, it's always a fight to struggle against, in fact, the change coming up in the project, but it's possible. It's assumed that the requirements of the project are quite clear at the beginning, which is probably something we can better. The second point I would like to highlight is the fact that during the construction, the logic of the management of the program is changing. Most of the projects we have, especially in France, it's the case in Europe, globally speaking, but in France especially, is that we tend to drive the program and the projects around the management of the contracts placed on the market. Whereas, in fact, the contract should service the project timeline. When we reach, in fact, the construction phase, it's impossible to carry on that way because, in fact, the logic of construction is geography. It's not market. Markets are done by techniques, by systems, not by geography. But as soon as we come to construction, geography is leading. So, in fact, adaptations of the contractors has to suit, to fit to that necessity. And of course, to be able to do it, the contracts with the contractor shall be done accordingly, otherwise it makes almost impossible for the contractors to act that way. And so, this is, in fact, for me, the key takeaway I would have from the benchmark we have currently with other industry and other nuclear programs driven worldwide.
Thank you, Stefan. Some great comments there from our first round of questions, Bernard, building on contracting, cost control, design evolution, and how we're agile in the market. So the title of today's session is From Supply Chain to Value Chain. Concretely, what does that evolution mean for you, Bernard?
So we all share that. We need a more integrated, we have mentioned early work involvement, for example, more cooperative, more standardized approach that's been mentioned quite a lot, with capable of speed. So an approach that connects large industrial groups, but also SMEs, research organization, training institution in a shared performance model. So not a series of transactions, but a team of long-term partnership, you have mentioned it, built on trust, visibility, and shared objectives. I mentioned the contract. The idea that it should be with a proper risk allocation, fair, and focused on delivering the project, and not focused on fighting on the contract every morning. Well, no, it's not the best way to be successful. So EDF is working to make this shift real by sharing forecasts, project pipelines, by investing together industrial tools and skills, by ensuring that our partners benefit from the fleet effect, from design once, built many, and by listening. And we're happy when you challenge us, because you bring us your experience. So we take it very positively. Thank you for daring, and I invite you to continue. I see this transformation now in action on our new build projects. Also, local companies are mobilized to contribute directly to the success of this industrial journey. You have mentioned the importance of local companies. They are part of the journey. In France, for example, for the construction of EPR2s in Penly, contracts have already been placed with local companies. More than 650 regional companies are registered on the nuclear platform, which help them access the tenders. On the ground, already 1,000 jobs are mobilized for preparatory work to ease the logistic. And we expect up to 10,000 people at the peak of the construction for one site. So it might be 30,000 with the different sites, which is a huge commitment by all of us. So building a value chain also means investing in people, in skills. 41 training programs are now in place across 26 institutions, and already more than 2,300 young people are enrolled in nuclear-specific courses. So this is what we mean by creating a value chain, aligning skills, capacities, industrial ambition with partners.
Thank you, Bernard. So Pierre, as part of that value chain, how do you see the role of major construction companies in the ramp-up and European localization of nuclear industry?
It's a little bit like in football. The development of a European team is based on the skills and the expertise of each player, not only their own skill, but also their capacity to work openly with other partners. And you must involve the best one from the beginning to serve this European nuclear ambition. And in this context, in this background, the challenge for not only construction, but also electromechanical energy solutions company like BC is to combine our three types of main expertise. The first type is we have a strong expertise in major projects. It's undisputed, recognized, and very mature. We have a specific business, DGP, Division des Grands Projets, which is used to carry out very large major infrastructure projects worldwide. A lot of them in the energy sector, notably in the nuclear sector. For instance, over the last 50 years, we have carried out the civil works of about 70% of the France original nuclear plants. We have managed the containment building of Chernobyl reactor number 4, that was with Mammoth. And as you mentioned, the largest tokamak ever built, that's the ITER project in Cadarache, which happened to be mostly on time and on schedule. So it means it can happen, and it's totally because of us, because of the team spirit that we could play there with our major project division. The second expertise, and it refers to what you said about geography, is that we are a global group, but more than global, we are a multi-local group. And everywhere we operate, we are very local, with local business units, which gives us a very good understanding of the country, of the regions, and even the community where we work. And this is essential, but when it comes to construction, at the end of the day, it's local. And it gives us a unique local workforce and resources to combine with our major project division, and also to access to to integrate the local companies, smaller or larger, to work together with our own local companies, together with our major project people. And the third expertise is our comprehensive knowledge of the nuclear facility life cycle. I mean, not only construction, but also operation, maintenance, and decommissioning. If you look at nuclear as a whole, we deliver more than 1 billion euro as Vinci. We have a range of expertise covering the entire life cycle of nuclear facility, and it enables us to better manage interfaces with other companies awarded technical contracts, whether they are Vinci or not. And this triple positioning as a major project, local, multi-local, and multi-technical contractor gives us a clear advantage. And since I started with football, we are fortunate enough in France to have not only Vinci, but 3 of the top 10 global contractors. I mean, our colleagues of Bouygues and Eiffage, who must be also in the room. And so, since we have this chance, I believe we have to consider to join our forces to be capable to meet the challenge. Anyway, we are on our side, and Bernard knows that. And if we can start building up this Champions League team, taking advantage that we have, at least in France, 3 major companies. If we add to that some Italian players and Dutch players, I'm sure we can make a very nice championship league winner, following our captain.
Thank you, Pierre. Roberto, finally, within this new value chain prospect, what does a win-win partnership look like in practice for you?
Certainly, what we are saying here is that we have an opportunity. This is important. What we are seeing, this more stable and continuous market, is giving all of us an opportunity to restructure our business and to make it more competitive and to create this value. This means first that we are serving a goal and not only a contract. And this means that we are delivering a value to our customer because we are providing the best quality to the best price. We are providing value to our shareholders because we are more efficient and so we are more profitable as well. And we are delivering benefit also to our final customer because we are providing them cheap and reliable energy. So it is an interest of everybody how to build this win-win. It's not easy, but certainly a few things that we can keep in mind is first that you have to look not to suppliers, but to players that can add value to what you have in mind to do. This is a slightly different way to look after how to create a supply chain or a value chain. if you are looking for adding value from the beginning. And certainly at the early stage, but also with the right people to do this. And then to follow the rule that a win-win partnership is not a way to transfer downstream, discharging downstream, I would say, risks, but is a way to manage altogether the risks in the proper way. And this is something that we should keep in mind from the contract phase up to the end to address the challenges that we will face.
Thank you. So Joost, turning to you, in your view, what conditions are necessary to make sure that we create or strengthen the successful partnerships within the supply chain and the nuclear ecosystem ahead?
Yeah, I think as mentioned already here, I think the long-term relationship are really crucial. And it means that we need and we want to cooperate more. But also I think part of it is, as Bernard rightfully pointed out, also embracing new technologies. So 3D engineering, 3D virtualization, but also digital twins, those kind of things which are used, you probably all know as well, are quite used in other industries as well. I think here we can make really steps forward that would enable us also to jointly start investing in those kind of skills, to have the people, to have the software systems, etc. And I think that is something which is difficult to do just for one tender you've won. So you need to have a kind of a cooperation and a long-term view on that. And I sincerely believe there's a huge amount of steps we can do in terms of efficiency with AI. It's a bit of a buzzword, but still the virtualization and all those kind of steps. And I think there definitely we should work together because we're sharing those systems. I think the cooperation is well served with us all focusing on that.
Thank you, Joost. So before I come to Bernard for our final closing comments, Stefan, I'll ask you if you don't mind. Nuclear projects are often seen as reasonably rigid, complex. What can the sector learn from other industries or international programs to make us more agile in our execution?
I'm not sure that the nuclear programs are so rigid. I mean, of course, we on board very stringent requirements, this is for sure. Then in the way to deliver the program, in the way to manage, in fact, the design, the engineering of the project, it's much less rigid than some other industries. If I compare to what has been done more than one decade ago in automotive, 1 decade ago in aerospace, the development processes are much more rigid than the one we have currently in nuclear in France. Just taking an example, for the oldest one in the room, A380, which is a nice airplane to take, was a mess in terms of development. We had a huge overcost on the development of that aircraft. Introducing a very compelling engineering development process using digital tools, especially in fact system engineering and data management, drew to have A350 a bit 25 to 30% cost less than the development of the A380. So being rigid is not a weakness somehow. We have to be maybe less rigid in the way to react, but more rigid in the way we deliver the project. Having that ability to manage, in fact, the data should help us to be more reactive at the shop floor level, as if I just focus on construction. To be efficient in construction, we need to have a decision-making process closer to the shop floor level than it is currently. If I take just one example, in some past projects in France, in nuclear, the loop between construction, control, and repair is, roughly speaking, 1 month. If I take the same one For Russian nuclear industry, it's a bit less than 1 week. Just for one reason, is that the problems are dealt with at the shop floor level, the lowest level as possible to deal with the problem. Whereas we tend, with our way to manage, in fact, the project, to report the problems at higher level. Of course, it requires a specific organization and the ability to share information very quickly.
Thank you, Stefan. So, Bernard, we've heard a lot of ambition from our panelists, a lot about simplification, innovation, but also a clear sense of urgency about how we do things differently. As we wrap up this flagship session, could you share a few of your final thoughts on this topic?
Thank you, Cathy, and thank you to our great panelists for your contribution based on a very strong experience, honest, constructive feedback experience. And each of you has spoken with clarity about the real challenge we face, the bottlenecks, the skill gaps, the good benchmark in other industries, the need for stronger coordination, predictability, speed. And thank you again for this openness. What I take from this conversation is that we have a common understanding of what we need to change, and we share the will to act on it. The main driver of cost overrun in our major project is time, is schedule slippage, and we all know it. Every delay costs money, every day saved builds confidence. I think at the peak of construction site, the cost may be 1 million euros per hour. It is sure that if we take 3 weeks to make a decision, it's an expensive decision. Huh? So anything that can be decided within the quarter, the minute, and we have skilled people who know how to do it, here is a fantastic room of opportunity for all of us. Huh? Then also, it's not a complete flexibility. We need standardization, as you described, as a level of efficiency, and including early work involvement. We also understand that we want contracts, project management model that reward the overall performance, the cooperation among the partners with fair contracts, proper risk allocation, where every company from engineering to construction to suppliers benefit from early high-quality delivery, which is so important. Huh? We can see some experience in the UK when we have a risk and gain sharing mechanism. It strengthens alignment and discipline, and we can extend those principles. And we must make our project execution more agile, drawing lessons from other industrial sectors, and ensure our nuclear projects are not just EDF projects, but shared one, driven by all partners and working towards a single objective, delivering value for the project, value for the money, and repeat in the long term. So building this partnership with the supply chain will make us leaner, faster, more reliable, without ever compromising on safety and quality. We have mentioned also local aspects, European aspects. Of course, we welcome companies from all over the world, and I thank them. But we know that building our supply chain, the skills is a factor of industrial independence, of sovereignty in our countries within Europe, and it's a strength we are happy to build on. So that's the challenge of value creation we want. Thank you again to all of you.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That concludes our panel session. I'd like to thank our panelists, Pierre Ognoras, Roberto Andinolfi, Joost Grotery, Stefano Barbier, and EDF Chair Bernard Fontenay. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much for this interesting session. And I would like now to remind you that we have in a few minutes, about 15 minutes, we will have a new session